Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I am joined by the man who knows how to do the nut bush, Sammy boy.
What's going on, man? How you doing today?
Doing fantastic. I am so happy. Today we're going to be talking about the beta. We finally have a ton of details. They intentionally were like, yo, we're not going to say anything until right now. We're going to drop literally everything. So we have a ton to talk about this week. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so we got the beta details. How do you feel about that?
I'm glad they finally came out of their shell and announced it, because it was getting very tedious at one point there, and the whole time I've been saying, the communication could be better, but like I said last week, it's not the end of the world to me. Mm-hmm. It's just as long as the game's good, but it was getting to the point where it's like, okay, come on, you got to say something now. So I'm glad they came out and announced that. And I wasn't really expecting a trailer either. I thought they would just literally do a tweet and like a post on Reddit and stuff, but I thought it was cool that they went to the sort of extra length to show a trailer and I guess get a bit more hype, because I think we did kind of deserve that. We've had a pretty quiet period, so
yes.
It was all very exciting and very, very keen to get stuck into it.
Same here, and we've got tons of details. So let's jump right into kind of the overview of what's going to be in the beta before we go into more like little specific things about what we're hoping for. But we are going to be playing Orbital, and it is going to be the mode Conquest. This time around, though, it's going to have all of the weather and kind of levolution effects and stuff happening in the game, unlike the technical playtest where we saw through leaks, where it didn't really have any of that. It was literally just, surprise, surprise, a technical playtest to test the servers and what they had in the game. And we're also going to be getting only 4 of the specialists, which is an interesting decision. What are your thoughts on that?
Kind of like mixed, because like we've said, I think we talked about this previously on the podcast, but personally, I don't really care that much. I would literally play as one if they had that. I wouldn't really care as long as I can play the game.
Yeah.
But it's also just it's almost weird that they haven't, especially Irish, because we know about Irish. So It's kind of weird that they're not trying to get as much data as they can and implement that into the game. So I guess it's just a bit weird, I guess. But yeah, in saying that, the others haven't technically been announced, even though we pretty much know all of them at this point. But
yeah.
They haven't officially been announced, so I guess it does make sense. Like, they can't just really drop another 5 characters that we don't really know about unless they were to say about them this week or something. So it's kind of what I expected, to be honest. And yeah, I'm just like indifferent. I'd play as 1 if they had it, or I'd play as 10. I don't really care, because for me it's more just about the actual gameplay and stuff. And I'll get to the specialists when the actual game comes out, really.
Exactly. I'm right there with you, of two minds with it. On the one hand, just from kind of a balancing issue, it's strange that they wouldn't put all of them in there to get that really good data behind. Okay, this specialist is really good against this other specialist. Okay, we need to adjust that, because they said in their internal playtest they've been playing around and they saw how overpowered the revive skill that McKay had was, or not McKay, Falk. That she had, and they adjusted it before the game even announced the beta, well, long before the game even announced the beta. So I think it is a mistake not to do that, because it's going to be launched and we're all going to be in that beta period, and we're all going to find out that if one of the specialists is overpowered, we're all going to realize it and notice it. And it's something that's been historically proven with DICE in terms of the hero system with Battlefront 2. How, again, it is one of those things that maybe it's because as more characters came in, they had to balance it in different ways. But it's one of those things that, yeah, they've had issues with this in the past.
Yeah, it's really, for me, that's one of the biggest sort of worries about the balancing, is not even so much the weapons, but the specialists. So, like you said, it's from a balancing perspective, it is kind of weird that they're not, trying to get that data as early as they can, so that when the game is actually launching, that they can actually like implement that early, rather than us having to wait until like Christmas time, essentially, until that stuff's fixed. And even if they do it, there's still going to be imbalances anyway. So it's not the end of the world, but it almost just feels like they have the opportunity to kind of like fast track that balancing by doing that now rather than sort of waiting until later. But at the same time, they might be also thinking like, let's just get the game working and like let's just get the core, get rid of the bugs and stuff. The balancing can be done later. So that could be their thought process there. It's hard to tell, but yeah, it's just kind of it's weird. It's like what I expected, but it's also like surprising as well that they're not putting those extra 6 in.
Especially considering this is a new mechanic that's going to be implemented in the game, and it's adding a whole lot of complexity that was not in the game before. It's changing the whole 4-class system to 10, basically, is what they're doing. So it needs some extra. Maybe they're getting enough of it in their own personal playtests, internal playtests, where they're playing around with it. They think that they have a confidence in the data that they're collecting internally, and they're like, yeah, okay, no, I think we're good. They'll be fine to launch. But we saw how that worked with Anakin in Battlefront 2. He was great in internal playtests, but as soon as he went into the open world, it was like, oh no, what have I done?
As soon as you let them into the hands of the players that we all want to do well. We always want to get big kill streaks and stuff. So internally, I don't know if they had that the drive to were any of them trying to get 100 kill streak. I highly doubt it. But when we tried, it was actually quite easy to do so. So yeah, I'm definitely a little bit I wouldn't say worried, but I'm just like that's one thing I'll be watching closely when the game launches is like how they try and balance that stuff. And like I said, I don't know if them putting them in the beta would fix it immediately, but I do think it would like fast track it a little bit. But yeah, playing devil's advocate, maybe they just want to make sure the gunplay and all that, the technically more important stuff, they want to make sure that is working, and then that can be dealt with later. So
yeah,
it's hard to tell. And also like the fact that it is a pretty short beta, especially like for us, we'll be able to play it for 4 days, but anyone who's not 100% sure if they want to buy it yet or whatever, like it's only 2 days, and so if you have 10 specialists, that might also be a little bit overwhelming, I guess. So I can see both sides of it, really.
Yeah, and it could be that it would have just taken more time to implement all of the other characters into the game. And there is kind of the excuse that they can use of, oh, hey, we haven't announced these characters, so they're not going to be in the game. But it's on them that they didn't announce it, so they can't really use that. It's you made the decision not to announce those characters, and you can't put that as a reason for them not being in the game. But maybe it's just a little more time because they've already delayed the game. They say, hey, well, we've already got these characters set up. We've got a lot of their stuff changed and implemented that was already in the technical playtest, and we're good to go with that build. We've made the changes that we needed to. Let's put it out with these 4 characters, and that should give us amount of data that we need. Or maybe they're just saying, hey, we're not releasing this beta to get data. It is literally at this point more of a demo than it has been in past times, I would say.
Yeah, especially like maybe now because of the delay, it's made it that they can do more testing, but especially when it was like, coming out 3 weeks before the game. At that point, that isn't really a test, is it? It is just a demo. So even though now there'll be 5 weeks.
Yep.
So I guess they could implement some good stuff, but yeah, it initially was seeming like it would be more of a demo, and that seems to be the way that a lot of beta testing, or I do air quotations when I say testing, because it seems like a lot of them these days are just more of a marketing thing where it's like, hey, we know a lot of you are sort of on the edge, play the game for a weekend, see if you like it, and they're confident enough in their game that they can sort of make some sales from that. So that could be their thing too. They might just not really, care about that. They might have done enough in the tech test and their own internal test, and this might just be more for the people who are on the edge, I guess.
Yeah, or even if it is that, because you mentioned it earlier, it is a shorter beta. It is from October 6th to the October 9th, and depending on where you look at, also the 10th.
Yeah, I noticed that actually. Yeah, I think when it says So like the early access says from the 6th until the 7th, and then open is from 8th until the 9th. So technically, early access is from the 6th until the 8th, because if it's starting on the 8th, then that means that ends on the 8th. So when it says 8th till the 9th, I think that just means like it'll be on the 8th and the 9th, and then it kind of like ends on the 10th. I think that's kind of what that means, because I've seen that literally. I'm literally looking at the briefing right now, and it says the beta will be available starting October 6th with full access starting October 8th and running until October 10th. But then in the graphic, literally
Directly
right below it,
that.
yeah. And so I guess that's just it might mean more rather than from until. It might be like on these days. So it's a weird.
Or
way
depending
of
on
writing
time
it.
zone.
Yeah.
It could change. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those weird things. Maybe they intended it to be the 10th and they cut it down to the 9th, or it's just saying, hey, you're going to be able to play the full day of the 8th and the full day of the 9th, and it ends officially on the 10th.
Yeah, that's pretty much my assumption, because like the time zones, for example, you'll be able to play all of the 8th, all of the 9th, and then like you might be, depending where you live, you might get 3 hours on the 10th, for example. I don't think anyone will get the full day, so I kind of think that's what it means. But it's weirdly written, that's for sure.
So if you pre-order the game, it's going to be 4 days, and
Yeah.
There are a couple things that you can say about this. There's two mindsets you can have depending on what camp in the Battlefield community you're in. If you worship the ground that Battlefield sits on, you're going to say, oh, hey, the game's good enough that they don't need to show it off and they don't need to collect a bunch of data. If you're on the opposite side of things, where you want Battlefield to fail and you want DICE to see another failure after Battlefield 5, you look at that time and you're like, man, they are really having issues if they don't want people to play the game more than 4 days. So there's two sets there that you can have. I'd say that I'm somewhere in the middle. I think that it's an odd choice, considering we saw an expansion of Battlefield Vanguard, that they actually opened it up to have multiple weekends of the beta, and which I'm all for. Give more people access to the game so you get more feedback and more changes can be implemented. But you can also say, oh man, Vanguard sucks. And look at that. They also had to have multiple weekends. Battlefield doesn't need that. Look at this. They only have 2 days.
Yeah. To be honest, I think you don't really even need to look into it too much. Like the length of most betas is essentially a weekend. So I actually think 4 days is fine. And it's kind of different because it is for pre-orders. So it's a little bit different. It's hard to compare to just saying it's 4 days, because it's not.
Yeah,
that
it's a
for
2-day
everyone.
open beta.
Yeah, so it's kind of it makes it hard to compare, I guess. But and it's, to me, it's the same length as every other Battlefield beta, so I'm not looking into it too much. It's enough time for me to play, so I don't really. Yeah, I haven't paid any attention to what everyone else thinks, because, to be honest, I just don't really care that much.
Yeah.
I'll play it from when it starts till when it ends, and then I'll just wait for the game.
Exactly, and that's a good mindset to be in too, because then you lower kind of the expectations that you wanted to be. So we'll see how well it pays off, and if it is a poor decision, we'll definitely find out. Like we've talked about before, if this game ends up being terrible, it's like, oh man, we could have some issues here. But if it's great, I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. And I was looking at the Battlefield 5 open beta, and I believe it was one of the longer ones in the history of Battlefield. And I think it was, let's see here, open beta early access started September 4th, and then it ended September 11th. So about a week for that one.
Yeah, and see, it's kind of the perfect example, because I remember the Battlefield 1 beta, I think, anyway, it was a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. I feel like it was on a weekend, and that was pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Could be wrong. Might have been 4 days all up, but yeah. It's like you said earlier, if people look into it too much, you can just go down that rabbit hole of, like, you can pick either side and go, oh, it's going to be a bust or it's going to be really good. But either way, like, the longer it was for Battlefield 5, they could have done that because there was so much wrong with it, and they wanted to find as many things wrong so they could fix it. So yeah, you can look at it both ways, and that's kind of why I just don't really care that much.
You can't put stock into it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it is a preview for the game. I think people are often leading into betas as if it's the actual launch, and at the end of the day, this is just like, it's really not that much different than the reveal trailer and all that stuff. It's just a part of the process leading up to launch, and when the game launches, that's when I'll start picking apart the issues and stuff. But until then, yeah, it's just, I don't really care that much for all of it, to be honest. I'm keen to play the game, and if the beta's like broken, then that's something you can critique, I guess. But in terms of like the marketing and the length of it and all that, to me, it just doesn't really matter that much.
Exactly. You can't really correlate because of the variance in times and the variance in development times, whether it was a delay, whether they're working from home. Like there isn't a set bar that says every single game has to reach this amount so to be a really good game. You could have a short beta. You have games that don't even have betas and they release perfectly fine. Or you have games...
I mean, look at Apex. It didn't even have a trailer.
Exactly.
It's got 100 million players. So your point is exactly spot on. That I think people just put so much into like the lead up to things when in reality it doesn't matter. If the game's good, they could not release a trailer and the game will sell well if it's good. So to me personally, the only thing that matters is if the game is good or if it's bad. That's all I really care about, to be honest.
And like we've said many times, once the beta comes out, we can get a really good indicator of ultimately what the game will be. Again, they're working on the game as the beta goes on. They're constantly working on the game, implementing fixes, implementing post-launch content. They are continuing to work on the game. But usually, the betas for games are pretty indicative of the official release. Again, usually.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think that's kind of what I said before, where I mean, you know, if the beta is a mess, then I'll be like, okay, like this is starting to get a little bit worrying. It's not always the case because it is a different build, so maybe there's like a big bug in the beta, but in the actual build of the game that hasn't been, implemented or whatever. So it's always hard to tell. But yeah, I think it's definitely something we can start to critique when the actual beta comes out and we can go, okay, like this is a 90% feel of what the game is going to be. Like it's obviously there'll be more maps and more content and stuff, but the actual core gameplay is pretty similar to what it'll be at launch. So yeah. I'm very interested to, with their lack of communication, I'm very keen to just play it and just feel it for the first time because it looks really good. Everything they've showed looks good, but we all know that looking good and playing good is not the same thing, really.
We saw Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk looked great when it was showed off.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't have ever expected that game to be what it was. It looked amazing, and then it launched, and I was like, "Wow, that looks like the worst game of all time." So that's a perfect example. Yeah, it's just like it's impossible to tell until we are in the actual battlefield and playing ourselves. It's very hard to speculate.
Yeah. I know people are going to say this, but like if the beta does end up poorly, people are going to say, well, it's just the beta. It's like, okay, you freaked out when Vanguard's beta was all like jacked up, and you're like, ah ha ha, look at that, it's garbage. And then as soon as it gets to Battlefield, but we'll cross that bridge when it gets there. Going a little more detail here, we got a lot of frequently asked questions around the open beta. The preload, which I'm so glad that they have a preload for this game. It's a fantastic move in the gaming industry to open up and say, hey, yeah, we understand these games are gigantic. So here's a preload day. You can have the entire day to download this game.
It's a great idea, especially because, like you said, games are just getting so big. Like I could be wrong, but I feel like they said the beta is 100 gig. Like that's enormous. So. I don't know if I haven't actually looked at the specs, so I don't know if that's true, but I just saw all through the comments on like the tweet saying, "Oh my god, this game is massive" or whatever. So they definitely yeah, they definitely need to do that, and I'm glad they have. Even, to be honest, I kind of wish they would do it a day earlier, because
Yeah.
a lot of people's internet, like, can't download that quick enough. Luckily, I'll be able to do it, but, like, if my internet wasn't good enough, I'd be probably still downloading when the beta actually goes live. So
there are
it's
still
kind of
places
frustrating, but yeah.
all around the world that do not have internet or reliable internet. There's
Yeah.
places in Nebraska or even places in Colorado that just do not have internet, or they have satellite internet where it's capped. Even in big cities, there are areas that are impoverished, but they still want a game. So you shouldn't limit them into what I posted a video. It's like, hey, the previous place I used to live, my internet was on a good day 5 megabits per second. On a good day, I was like, man, I'm getting really good speeds. And it took forever. And someone was like, well, why don't you just not play? It's because even if I have slow internet, I still want to play the game. Like that's not going to stop me.
It's such a terrible reason to say, oh, just don't play. It's like,
it's like
say
if
that
you,
about anything.
Yeah, if you have let's say you love, I don't know, ice cream, and you have some issues with it. It's like, okay, just don't eat ice cream. But I love ice cream. You're gonna take away this joy of my life. Similar vibes there. But I'm glad that they at least have a day that you can go ahead and download that. And hey, if you're just playing the open beta, you're gonna be able to preload 2 days or 3 days before the actual event.
True.
So there is that, and it only comes into effect if you pre-ordered the game. So it's good there. Following up that, something that I think you're a really good person to have an opinion on this. Someone who loves both Call of Duty and Battlefield, and have loved those franchises for a while. What are your thoughts on no cross progression from the beta to the official release?
I'm fine with it. I feel like that's something that's generally always been the case, and it would be great to have it, but at the same time, it's like, for example, the people who can't download it quick enough or whatever, when the game launches, I'll be level 50 and they're level 0. So
yeah,
I don't really care that much. It's generally how it goes, where you play the beta and there's either its own set leveling system or everything's just unlocked. So yeah, I'm completely fine with that, to be honest.
Okay, because I've seen it go back and forth. I'm a huge fan of cross progression, but I do understand, and I think it's a really good point to reveal that, hey, if you do have crappy internet, or let's just say you work on the weekends and you can't take advantage of the time that when the beta's there, which has happened to me before. There's been quite a number of betas that I was really pumped about, just wasn't able to take advantage of. So that is definitely a very good point.
Yeah, because also there's just probably a lot of people that, they might be on holidays when it's on or whatever, and they might be the biggest diehard fan of Battlefield, but they just can't be there to play it. And then it would suck to, I know I'd be mad if I logged in at midnight when the game launches and everyone's already level 50. That'd kind of be a little bit annoying. So I do get it. I'd be fine as well if they did have it. I wouldn't be against that either. But it's just, that's generally in most games. I think a few games have done it, but in most games it tends to just be its own set progression between the beta and then the full launch. So yeah, it's kind of what I expected, really.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. What are you most excited about for this beta?
That is a good question. I think for me, just the gunplay. I really just want to feel what the game feels like. It's not, for me, the specialist stuff that is all secondary to the actual gameplay itself, even though it is a part of the gameplay. For example, playing as McKay, you're going to be able to move a lot quicker than everyone else, and you get the grappling hook and everything. So it is part of the gameplay, but for me, it's just the gunplay and how the weapons feel and all that kind of thing. That's the main thing. So it's kind of a boring answer, to be honest. But yeah, just feeling how the weapons feel and how it feels to shoot the guns and all that. That's really the most exciting part for me, just to get the overall feel. And then like I said, when the when the actual game launches, that's when I'll get stuck into like the nitty gritty details of learning each specialist and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm right there with you in terms of there isn't like, man, I really want to play this weapon or I really want to do this on the battlefield. Probably one of the things I'm most interested to find out is the size of the maps. Is one of the concerns that I have with the game. I'm really interested to see where it comes out. In terms of excitement, though, I'm really excited for these specialists because I think it's a really unique idea. I think if done properly or done successfully, it's going to be incredible and it's going to offer a ton of customization. So I'm really excited to see how those specialists really impact the gameplay. And again, I'm interested to see about the size of the maps.
Yeah, I'm pretty much exactly the same there. Like, for the actual launch of the game, I think the specialist system is probably the main thing that I'm keen for, because I'm really keen to see how that goes. So, in terms of the actual game, I'd pretty much agree 100% that that's like my main interest ever since the reveal. That was like the first thing that caught my eye. I was like, oh wow, that's a fundamental change to the franchise that, to me personally, it sounds great. I know a lot of people have had a lot of issues, and there has been a lot of good points made that it's taking away, like some of the core things from the franchise that we've always had, the medic class and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there has been some good points made, but for me, it's just it's really exciting that it's almost a bit more of a, I don't want to call it a hero shooter, but it's going kind of just like slightly leaning that direction while still staying Battlefield. So to me, that's really, really exciting. I'm very keen when the actual game comes out and there's all 10. I'm really keen for that.
The more we hear about Battlefield 2042, the more comparisons I draw from it and Apex.
Yeah.
Especially with how they've kind of expanded with the player card system. They also revealed a lot of information around progression and cosmetics, which let's jump into kind of what they revealed on that front. So we have a new kind of progression system, a new and a little bit of an old. So kind of a bit of a bonus there in terms of the way that they're going to be handling the progression. Do you want to go a little more details on that?
Yeah, so the main thing for me that I saw in that whole Battlefield briefing was that mastery system. That to me sounds amazing. That was like the one thing that stood out, which is, for those who haven't read the briefing, it's essentially like you can achieve mastery of, a weapon or a vehicle or even a specialist to where you get like a bunch of, separate skins and stuff that are like unique to that, and you can't buy those skins, and it's only for those who have like, I don't know what the requirements will be, but it might be getting, I don't know, what's a decent example, maybe like 3,000 kills with a certain weapon. And you get like a really awesome looking black and red skin, which I thought looked absolutely amazing. The Dozer skin that they showed, it looks absolute fire, and then the weapon as well. So for me, that it's not really the whole progression system, but it's just like a part of it. That was the most interesting bit to me, that it's going to give us something to keep coming back to the game. That's something I've always talked about, that like, it doesn't matter how fun the game is, if there's nothing for me to, I guess, achieve in the game, just to like keep grinding for, I will get bored of it eventually. That was one thing that I think Battlefront 2 kind of had its issues with. You get to level 40 and then what do you do? You just play the game for the sake of it. There's nothing actually to achieve. So for me, that's a pretty big thing, is to like actually have something where I know that, in 6 months I'm still going to be grinding to try and get certain weapons, and I want to get them all, mastered and stuff like that. So that was definitely very exciting for me.
It's such an awesome addition to Battlefield, and I am so pumped for it. Like you said, it's one of those things that you're like, okay, yeah, I've hit this cap, and now I'm good. You do have the bragging rights of saying, oh yeah, I'm this level, but once you hit that level, and once time progresses further than that, let's just say 6 months from now, everyone's going to be that. What's gonna be that kind of thing that makes it like super special for you. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think like Battlefront is the perfect example because they updated that because of that reason. Like they added the extra, they went to level 1,000 because there was nothing to do. Like I remember specifically when Obi-Wan dropped, I literally maxed him out. He dropped on a Thursday and I had him maxed out by the weekend. And then it's like what now? What do I do? I've literally achieved everything that you can in the game, and all I can do, even though the game's still fun, like I still want to play it, but there's no like, it doesn't give you that itch to come back. There's no like, oh, I can't wait to play later today because I want to try and make some progress on the skin that I want to get or whatever. Like there's nothing in there, and yeah, this just completely fixes that, and that's something I've really wanted. I know obviously Battlefield 5 has had the same thing kind of with the gold weapons and stuff, but that was a little bit different, and it was also a kind of a pain in the ass because you had to like do the weirdest challenges, and it just took you out of the game. Like I remember there was one that like, I think you had to get 10 kills with sniper rifles within 10 meters of someone, so you just end up playing the game like completely different, which is kind of the point of it, but
yeah,
I don't want to run around with a sniper at 10 meters and try and, I'm going to go 10 for 30 in that game, and that's just not very fun. So the fact that it seems like anyway, because we don't really know all the details, but it does seem like it's going to be more tied to just like grinding it out rather than doing specific little challenges. So yeah, I'm very, very keen for it.
Same here, and I think you made a fantastic point there with how Battlefield 5 did it, where it had these specific tasks you had to specific tasks and challenges that you had to really go towards, and it's like nobody's gonna play this game. As soon as I get this, it's gonna be done, or people are just gonna say, hey, it's not that important to me, so I'm just not gonna do that.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think it's one of those things that I think Call of Duty's done really well. That's like one thing that I've always loved about COD is that there's always the mastery camos to get where, you grind. Like in Black Ops, I actually didn't even love Black Ops that much. Like it was a better game than some of the previous ones, but it wasn't my favorite COD yet. I got every weapon gold so I could get that Dark Matter camo. So like that was something that kept me coming back to the game, and I was playing it every day to try and get that. And so if you put that into Battlefield, where the gameplay, like for Call of Duty, the gameplay, once you've played for 2 weeks, you've kind of played everything that you're going to play. Whereas Battlefield is so different every game because, the map's so big and all that kind of thing, that if you put that mastery system into a game where the gameplay is also really rich like that, I think that's going to be a match made in heaven, because the gameplay already does bring me back, but then also having something to grind for is just going to be so much more entertaining, I think.
I agree. I 100% agree. As soon as I saw the mastery thing, it's like, okay, yeah, they're taking some really big inspiration from Call of Duty, and I think Call of Duty has kind of mastered no pun intended there. Didn't even plan on that sentence going that way, but hey, I'll own it. They've really mastered the whole idea of kind of you play a specific weapon, and the time that you put into that weapon pays off in these cosmetics that are really cool cosmetics. And I'm glad that they're opening up for that. And I also like the idea that instead of you playing this one weapon that unlocks a different weapon, you are playing this one weapon, but you're also upgrading it specifically versus getting something that you may not like. Maybe you play the assault, just as an example, or Webster McKay, and you really like that semi-auto, and you're all about it. And the more you play it, the more you're ready, the more you love it. But as soon as you get to a certain level, instead of unlocking an attachment for your weapon, it unlocks a shotgun. Like you're not a shotgun player. So I really like that whole aspect of it, where you can jump in and you upgrade your weapon specifically by what you play, instead of kind of like that progression or cosmetic path or upgrade path. I think it's going to be really successful. Yeah,
definitely. Like, we obviously have to wait till we play, but on paper it all sounds pretty much how I would want it to be so far. It's like the perfect mix of, I do like that, where you can, if I like a gun, I want to use that gun so I can unlock the best attachments rather than, you know, you play it like in Battlefield 5, you can literally play probably 2 games and have the gun maxed out, and then it's just like that's all there is to do with that gun, and then you just move on to the next one kind of thing. So I really like the idea of it being a bit more of a grind that hopefully isn't too long. I don't want it to be tedious, but like I hope they can find that sweet spot to where, you know, it makes it worth going for that mastery stuff because you can show it off, but it also didn't take you like a year to get it kind of thing. So very, very keen to see like how it actually plays in game.
Same here. Another thing I'm super happy for is cross progression. As someone who I don't know if I'll end up this way for Battlefield 2042 because I bought the Ultimate Edition on PC and it's like 120 something bucks. So I'm not in any real hurry to buy Battlefield on any other platforms, but normally on like other games, like I have Battlefront on PC, I have it on Xbox, I have it on PlayStation, and I would have loved it to see some cross progression around that. If I unlock this weapon or I level up this character on this machine, it also carries over to another one. So I'm so happy that they're bringing cross progression to this game.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me too. I'm a cross platformer myself. I guess I play, like for example with Warzone. Like if I'm playing by myself, I play on Xbox. Xbox is like my main platform, but whenever I want to play with my mates, like they all have PlayStation and it is cross-play, so I can just play on Xbox, but it's easier to just get in a PlayStation party and do it that way. So I do also play Warzone on the PlayStation, and that does have cross-progression. So that's something I've always wanted in Battlefield as well, is the ability to, like, if I'm playing with my IRL mates who all have PlayStations, I can squad up with them just fine. But when I'm recording, you know, if I just jump into a game by myself and try and get some footage, I can do that on the Xbox and not have to go, oh, damn, I don't have that attachment unlocked because it was on the PlayStation, not the Xbox. So that's a really big thing for me. That was like one of the main things I wanted, and I'm glad they finally confirmed it.
Dude, we have cross-play and cross-progression. It is a good time to be a Battlefield fan.
Yeah. The only last thing that I would have loved is a way to have cross-gen as well, because that's really the only thing that sucks, is that I've got a lot of friends who are on PS4 and I just won't be able... Well, I do have a PS4, so I'll be able to play with them, but it's like, for a lot of people, they don't, you know, not everyone has a next-gen and a previous-gen console, so if you... For example, I know one of my mates who sold his PS4 to get a PS5, but then all his mates are actually still on PS4 because they haven't been able to get one. So he literally now can't play with them at all, unless maybe Portal allows you to. If you set it to 64 players, maybe that works. We don't really know, but yeah, like that's a big... That really does suck. But
yeah,
hopefully they can figure out a way around it to, like... I think it would be good to be able to... If I'm on the Series X, I should be able to, like, opt in to just say, okay, I'll just play a 64 player lobby and just play with my previous gen friends. Hopefully they can sort that out after launch, because that would be enormous. Like, that'd be huge for the game. But yeah, whether that's possible, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I hope they figure something out like that. It is a shame. Something I'm curious to see how they handle it, because it is a question. If I buy a PS4 copy of Battlefield and eventually upgrade to a PS5, will it upgrade to the PS5 version? Because we had the whole controversy with Horizon Zero Dawn and their upgrade path, which was garbage. I hate how PlayStation has been doing it recently. They've stopped being for the players and it's for getting extra money now.
I've always been really annoyed by the way they do things, to be honest.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to say, because like going from the Xbox, like I bought Ghost of Tsushima a week before the director's cut and the upgrade. It's like, dang it. And while on Xbox, like I buy one copy and it's like, oh yeah, you're good. You already downloaded the version that fits for your console. It's like, this is great. This is what I wanted to see. Yeah,
and it's like, it proves that if Xbox can do it, it's not like a hardware problem that they can't do it. They obviously can. They just they're literally saying, "Nah, you have to buy it again." Like it's not an issue; it's a choice. So that has always really annoyed me, to be honest. The way that I'm by no means a Sony hater, because I love so many PlayStation games and I've played so many hours on the PlayStation, but
Definitely.
I do really dislike the way that they go about things sometimes. Whereas Xbox has shown that they're really like pro-consumer, because they're just Game Pass alone. That's all I need to say. Game Pass is just completely for the players. They obviously make their money on it, but it's absolutely just the biggest bargain. So yeah, the way that they do that compared to Sony saying like, nah, if you buy the PS4 version and you get a PS5, sorry, you've got to buy the game again. Like that is a terrible way of doing it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So I hope that Battlefield makes the decision to do the right thing, I'll say, and we get the opportunity to say, hey, if you buy it on PS4, you can play it on PS5. It'd be great to have a free upgrade, but even if it's like a $5 to $10 upgrade, that's better than other things.
I do know that the different like levels. So you've got like obviously the base game, but then there's like the gold edition and ultimate or whatever. I know that I think it's the gold and ultimate that they are like cross gen, I guess you would say. So if you pre-order the gold edition, for example, and you're on PS4, then I think that does definitely carry over. But I don't think the base game does. So I do hope that they have an option down the line to just say, yeah, like you can upgrade your base game without having to buy the ultimate edition.
Yeah.
And just, even if it's $10, like I think that's fair. I think that's, because, next gen games are bigger and better. So I'd be fine saying, yeah, I'll give you $10 to, just get the game on PS5 instead. But at least if that doesn't happen, I guess the gold edition is there. But I don't know how much more expensive that is than the base game, and especially the Ultimate Edition, that's like nearly double the price. So I do hope they have that cheaper option there.
Mm-hmm. Same here. I really hope that we see something like that for Battlefield. I'd say one final note here. We did get to kind of be a little more topical here. We got a Battlefield bulletin. Is that what they're called? Briefing.
Briefings, yeah.
Briefing. Battlefield briefing on Battlefield's commitment to positive play. And it goes into detail about how they're really committed to stopping bullying in EA games, in Battlefield, which is good. I like the movement there. I think they're going... I don't have enough trust built into that, because we've seen how the devs themselves get bullied. Like we had the whole thing with Freeman getting death threats and all that stuff around not sticking to his word in terms of the tweet that he had. And if you can't protect and defend your own employees, how are you going to manage a community with millions of people? That's my concern with it. But I do appreciate the movement and kind of saying, hey, yeah, we want to move forward as a more approachable and more accepting community.
Yeah, I do agree with that it's hard to, until they put it into place. I'll believe it when I see it, is essentially my stance on it, because, and even with the whole cheating thing, like part of that, the bullying is, I guess, cheating must be counted in bullying, because they mentioned it all in the same thing. In terms of like toxicity and harassment and cheating, that was all kind of one thing. The same thing happened with Warzone. They've said there is the same functionality that you can report people, and we've seen it does absolutely nothing, like literally nothing. You just report them and that goes into the void and nothing ever happens. So, I'll believe it when I see it. I don't want to be pessimistic, but yeah, if I jump into the game and there's a cheater or someone saying racist stuff in the chat or something, and I report them, if I get told that they've been banned or something, then I'll be like, okay, this is great. But until that happens, to me, it's just, and it's nothing against EA or any company, but it's just, I've seen so many games that say they're going to do that, and then nothing really happens. So until I see literal evidence of it actually happening, I'll be pretty sus on it, I think, just because I don't doubt their intentions. I think they absolutely want to, but you can't control. This game will sell like 20 million copies. They can't control 20 million people. Like, that's just impossible. So we'll see how it goes. But I think it's I think it's good that they've done it. I'm definitely not complaining about the fact that they've implemented it, but I just hope they can find a way to actually stick to their guns, I guess.
Exactly. They have a lot of trust to rebuild. It just seeing in the lack of response and communication, even recently, it's like, okay, you're not going to communicate with your fan base, and then you're going to be like, hey guys, we really value and trust our community, and we really appreciate all of you guys, and we want you to be facilitators of a positive community. And it's like, yeah, okay. We'll see how this goes. I appreciate the effort and the reasoning behind it, but I'm unsure of how it will be implemented and how well it will be really supported, and if they'll even be able to dedicate the amount of people that it takes to accurately and successfully pull this off.
Yeah, because that's the thing, like, they'll need a team for this. This isn't just like, oh, we're going to give Dave down the road the job. Like, there's a whole team that will need to
or let the community handle it. No, it's your responsibility. Yeah.
That's the point of it, is to stop the community, because we can't be trusted. So, yeah, they will need a whole... That was the issue with Warzone, is there's like the memes, I think I've said it on the podcast, There's like memes about Manual Review Matthew that they
Manuel Review.
Where they, like, apparently there is literally like a 5-man team that just deals with, like, if someone reports someone for hacking, they have to manually check it. You're going to need a bigger team than that, I think.
I would hate to have that job.
Yeah. And I think there needs to be some level of, like, you know, AI that's involved where they can, if someone in the chat is just saying racist things constantly, right? Not to, like, to be honest, if someone says it once, they should be banned. But if someone says it once, you give them a slap on the wrist, you say, don't do that again. If they do it multiple times over, like, ban them automatically. It shouldn't even be a something that someone has to do. You should have, like, YouTube can do it, where if someone types a racist comment, it just automatically gets banned. So I have no doubt they can use that technology. And if someone's wrongly accused, maybe you said something that looks like it was racist and it wasn't, for example, then appeal it, and then that's where you need the team to, like, deal with those appeals. But you need to automate it a bit, because, yeah, there's just too many people. You can't control that many people. So I really hope that they've, you know, planned it out well enough that they can actually pull it off. Because if it all works, this will be a huge thing for the game, and I think it's a great step towards you know, having no toxicity and stuff. But it's a lot of work, and I just hope that they can actually put in that work. And yeah, until it happens, I guess we'll just wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. But overall, super, super hyped around the beta. I'm glad that we are getting it, and that it's not one of those things, well, because of COVID, that we're really hammering down on the game, and we don't think it's suitable for it to have a beta right now. I'm glad we're having one. It's a shame that it is such a limited amount of time, but hey, we are getting to play the game before it comes out, and we're going to be able to really experience it and get really hyped around it. And I think it's going to be a fun look, and I look forward to seeing all the different moments and kind of experiences and crazy stuff that people get up to.
Yeah, I think that, for me, that's one of the biggest parts of it, is just, seeing just the hype. It has been a very dry, like, the reveal time was, like, so exciting, and then it did drop off a little bit just because there was not that much that they talked about, and just having that, you know, you load up Twitter and there'll be clips of people doing funny stuff, and, you know, just people having fun. Like, that's what I'm the most excited for, and just, you know, jumping in my Discord and seeing everyone squatting up and having a blast. That's equally as exciting to me as the actual game itself, to be honest.
All right, dude, I'm so pumped. I'm so excited to see. I hope we get some of those, like, in the trailer, the guy jumping out of the plane, bazooka, jump back into the plane. I hope we get to see stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or launching other tanks at each other.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be, especially if with like the weather effects and stuff, I'm certain there'll be some hilarious stuff, even just from the beta that starts to come out of people flying tanks through across the map and stuff like that. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm very, very keen for it.
Yeah, same here. But with that, I think we'll call it an episode. Thank you all so much for listening to this podcast. If you would like to dive further deeper into the Battlefield area, Sammy and I both have YouTube channels, Uplink Podcast, youtube.com/Uplink Podcast, and Sammy Boy. Sammy, what is your URL for your Battlefield YouTube channel?
I think it is actually. I changed it. Let me check. I'm pretty sure it was actually. Oh, it's youtube.com/SammyBoyYT. I think Sammy Boy is taken from the main channel that had that originally. Okay. So Sammy Boy YT.
Perfect. Yes, definitely go over there, check out our videos, and we make videos, multiple videos a week. We have streams. Definitely go check that out. If you'd like to support the show on the podcast side of things, definitely do consider leaving us a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, wherever you can find podcasts, and leave a review. We really appreciate it. Share the podcast with your friends, your squad buddies, the boys, the girls, whoever you're going to be hopping in. Definitely do consider sharing the podcast. And thank you so much for the support that we've been getting recently. But we'd like to thank you all for listening. Thank Ethan Clark for the lovely, lovely thumbnail. And we'll see you all on the battlefield.